Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we are taking a look at large language models,
LLMs.
LLMs, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the tech making all those AI assistants and chatbots possible
Yeah, they're everywhere now.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And today we're going to be focusing on what makes these things tick.
Yeah, we're going beyond just what they are.
Right.
And looking at this big difference between open source and closed source models.
Yeah, why should we even care about this open versus closed thing?
Well, it's a pretty big deal.
Okay.
Especially now with open source LLMs just exploding in popularity.
Yeah, feels like every day there's a new one.
Yeah, and it's not just that they're becoming more accessible, but
Yeah.
that they are becoming seriously powerful.
Yeah, remember that article we saw? Best open source LLMs of 2024.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the models on that list, like Gemma 2 and Nematron 4,
Right.
they're giving those big names like GPT 3.5 a run for their money.
Absolutely. And even surpassing them in some areas.
Which is wild. It's amazing how fast this field is moving.
And this really highlights the core advantages of open source development.
Like what?
Well, the customization is huge.
Okay.
Anyone can tweak and fine-tune these open source models to fit their exact needs.
So it's not just about using what's out there.
Right, you can tailor it.
You can make it your own.
Exactly. Imagine building a chatbot that sounds exactly like your company, or even an AI assistant that's an expert in your specific industry.
That's a game changer.
It is. It really opens up a whole world of possibilities.
Okay, so it's customizable.
Yeah, and it's not just about individual people tinkering either.
Okay.
The open source community is all about collaboration and sharing knowledge.
Right.
That means much faster innovation and experimentation compared to closed source development, which is usually much more secretive.
Yeah, behind closed doors.
Exactly. So think about it, like 1,000 minds working together to make a model better,
Oh, wow.
instead of just a small team at one company.
Right, that makes sense.
And that collective brainpower can lead to much faster breakthroughs.
And then there's the transparency.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
With open source, you can actually see how the model works.
Down to the code.
Right, you can see the code so you can understand it.
Yeah.
You can audit it for safety, and it creates a culture of accountability.
Which is sometimes missing in the closed source world.
Yeah, for sure.
And a perfect example of this is Llama 2.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's talking about that one.
Right. It being open source has created this huge wave of innovation.
In what way?
Well, take synthetic data generation, for example.
Okay.
That's super important for training powerful LLMs, and it wouldn't be possible without open models like Llama 2 as a foundation.
So open source is really pushing the whole field forward.
Absolutely.
But I got to ask,
Yeah.
doesn't open source mean it's a total free-for-all? Like, can I just use it for anything?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
Legally, it can be pretty tricky.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about businesses using them.
Right. Using these models to make money.
Yeah, exactly. And that article we read, large language models, the legal aspects of licensing for commercial purposes, it really gets into the nitty-gritty there.
It's definitely not as simple as just downloading and using it however you want.
Nope. Even if the license is open source, there are almost always conditions and limitations when you're using it for a business.
So it's buyer beware.
Yeah, basically, do your homework and make sure you understand the licensing terms before you start using an open source model for your business.
Solid advice.
Yeah, don't want to get caught out there.
Okay, so open source LLMs have a lot going for them. But what about the other side of the coin? Like, when does it make sense to go with a closed model instead?
Well, closed source models, they have their own advantages too.
Like what?
Well, companies like OpenAI who make ChatGPT, right? Or Google with Bard,
Yeah, the big players.
they're investing tons of money into research and development.
So it's all about resources.
Yeah, and that leads to some serious performance and features you might not see in the open source world.
So it's like a trade-off.
Yeah, kind of.
Open source has the community and the customization.
Right.
But closed models, they have the backing of these huge companies.
Exactly. And that can mean a level of polish and fine-tuning that's hard to match.
And I'd imagine the security and support that comes with closed models is a big deal for some companies.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you're dealing with sensitive data.
Yeah, you want to know there's a team of experts ready to help if something goes wrong.
Exactly. It's like having a direct line to the people who built the model.
So you're not just left to figure it out on your own.
Right. And that can be invaluable for businesses, especially in industries with lots of regulations.
But wouldn't you say the biggest drawback of closed models is that we don't really know what's going on under the hood?
Yeah, the black box problem.
Right. We can't see the code. We don't know how they're making their decisions.
That's definitely a valid concern.
Especially as these models become more powerful and we start using them for more and more things.
Right. It raises questions about transparency and bias.
So it's like this tension between the power of these models and our ability to trust them.
Exactly. And that's a conversation that's only going to become more important as AI becomes more integrated into our lives.
So we've looked at both open source and closed source LLMs.
Mhm.
We've talked about their strengths and weaknesses, and it seems like there's no easy answer.
Definitely not one size fits all.
But let's get practical for a second.
Okay.
If I'm listening to this and I'm thinking about using an LLM for my own project, what are the key things I need to consider when choosing between open and closed?
Well, first thing about the cost.
Okay, money talks?
Open source models are usually much more affordable, which can be a big deal if you're a small business or just starting out.
Yeah, budgets are real.
Then think about your in-house expertise.
It's like, do I have a team of AI wizards on staff?
Exactly. If you do, then open source can give you a lot more control and flexibility. Then a closed model with its support system might be a safer bet.
Makes sense.
And maybe the most important thing is, what are you actually using the LLM for?
Right, what's the goal?
If it's something simple like generating basic text, an open source model might be perfect.
Okay.
But if you need top-notch performance or accuracy or security for something really complex, a closed model might be the way to go.
So it all comes down to picking the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about what these things are and how they work, but let's look ahead what's coming next in the world of LLMs.
Well, predicting the future is always tough.
Right.
But there are some trends that are pretty interesting. One thing a lot of experts are saying is that open source is going to keep growing.
Getting bigger and better.
Exactly. Models are going to get even more powerful.
So they might catch up to the closed models.
Maybe even surpass them.
Wow. So we might see a future where the best AI tools are available to everyone.
It's definitely a possibility.
That's pretty exciting.
It is, but it also means we need to be careful.
Right. Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should.
Exactly. As these models become more powerful, we need to be thinking about responsible development.
So it's not just about pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Right. It's about making sure these tools are used ethically and for the good of everyone.
So for all of you listening out there, whether you're a developer, a business leader, or just someone who's fascinated by AI,
Yeah.
understanding this whole open versus closed thing is becoming super important.
Absolutely.
We've seen how open source drives innovation and accessibility.
And how closed models bring those advantages in performance and support.
So at the end of the day, the choice is yours, but is not a choice to make lightly.
Think it through, weigh your options.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of the world of LLMs and maybe spark some new questions about the future of AI.
This field is moving so fast, it's an exciting time to be paying attention.
And that's a wrap for another deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone.